17th of February 1600. And Giordano Bruno died for teaching true Hermetic wisdom to the post-Renaissance world. And he was touring Europe, helping wise and conscious people. He was also talking to Queen Elizabeth I, and Queen Elizabeth was almost going to turn England into a Hermetic republic with the advice and action of the Giordano Bruno. But the plot was, the plan to do so was discovered by the powers that be, and that didn't occur. But Giordano Bruno was pretty much hounded most of his life. He was on the run, really, most of the time. And finally they caught up with him, and for 7 years the Inquisition tried to find grounds to get rid of him, and eventually they did. And the grounds were that he was teaching things that were contrary to the church, such as the Bible is not a literal document, it's allegory. So he was teaching astrotheology. Secondly, he was teaching that the stars and planets and systems out there, the whole universe. Now that's something you don't go teaching when Christendom wants you to believe that God only made intelligent life on this planet as an experiment with Adam and Eve, and there is nothing else out there, don't even bother. If anything, there's angels and demons. So this is the fiction that the churches teach, and of course Giordano Bruno wouldn't have been very popular for teaching that. You've got to remember, he was teaching stuff 30 years before Galileo Galilei was called in by the Inquisition. And he was one of the first ones to call stars suns and suns stars, you see. So we get a lot of astrotheology and a lot of stuff from Giordano Bruno. The other thing, of course, was he taught that the world needs to go back to Hermetic wisdom and Hermetic science, if ever we are going to save the world from depraved actions. So let's go to a break and discussing some of Giordano Bruno's life. And welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network. You're with Santos and honouring the memory of Giordano Bruno today, and just to touch on some of his teachings and some of the things that he died for. It's quite surprising to see how insightful the man was. He knew exactly the crimes of the church of the day. And in a beautiful book by Francis Yates, I think it was written in the around about in the 50s, first published in 1964. There you go, by Francis Yates. I do recommend you grab this book. It's a marvellous book to understand Giordano Bruno and the Hermetic tradition. She also includes information in this book about two of his predecessors, Pico, Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, the Kabbalist, and of course the great Ficino. And so these three basically are the ones of the Italian Renaissance and the Hermetic tradition. These are the ones that carried the Prisca Theologia through and revived it. And Giordano Bruno was into astrotheology and sacred geometry. He has figures that he penned with his own hand He has images of the flower of life, the fruit of life. He has images of the sine wave of creation, how electromagnetism works. I mean, his stuff needs to be revisited. He has so much for us today. But I'd like to read from the book, just a portion. Go succinctly at the heart of what he was all about and see how it ties in with the work of many astrotheologists like myself today who are teaching the same universal syncretic science that once pervaded the whole planet, and everyone lived in harmony by following the laws, not commandments, the laws of nature, of God, and where people knew the one God was the one mind, and the Hermetics called that one Pymander, the mind. Universe is mind. All is mind. And all that is visible is the product of that mind. And it is the motion projected from that mind, because all is motion. And the illusion of substance is just that, an illusion. And so, once upon a time we had that, and Giordano Bruno knew that, and this is what he disclosed to the world about the system that had persecuted the true Egyptian science. And he said about the Egyptian religion, he said, "It is the good religion which was overwhelmed in darkness when the Christians destroyed it, forbade it by statutes, substituted worship of dead things, foolish rites, bad moral behavior, and constant wars. For the Egyptian natural religion, with its Neoplatonic base, and the Egyptian good moral laws, Mercurio Egizio Sapientissimo is for Bruno the name of the divine wisdom itself, and the Spaccio della Bestia Trionfante outlines a coming religious and moral reform." So Bruno knew that the good religion was substituted for worship of dead things. In fact, Celsus, which I will get around to toward the second hour of this show, I'm going to move on to some of the first century philosophers who agree with Bruno about the Christian religion and what it has done to the world. And Celsus there called the Christian church a death cult, a funerary cult, obsessed with dead things. Thomas Paine also said the same thing. It's a dead thing. It's all about third-party vicarious, more powerful than oneself, which is also an illusion. Because as children of the divinity, as divine units, we can never be less powerful than divinity. But the churches, of course, have substituted that religion with all these things. And interesting that he mentioned constant wars. This is what's going on today. How many wars have been fought for Christendom to advance its agenda on this globe? The Americas were conquered for Christendom. The Vatican sent Columbus in 1492. In 93, he signed the Treaty of Tordesillas in Portugal. And that pretty much sealed it. That was a real estate transaction, and the Vatican and hence Christendom possessed the lands of the indigenous Americans. Same thing happened here in Australia, and many of the islands of the sea and many other countries have been annexed by the Roman fascist corporation in this manner. And Giordano Bruno pointed out that they were constantly at war, inquisitions, crusades, witch hunts, killing hermetists and scientists like, you know, well, Galileo got away with it, didn't he? But even today, it's taken out if they've got something that's good and free. But certainly he made a good point there. On page 233 of the book, there are some more interesting comments which I'm going to read after the break as we go to a break. And honour the memory of a great man who died for truth, a scientist, Giordano Bruno. Yeah, and power is with the people. It already is with the people, for the people are divine. Now, just before the break, I was discussing Giordano Bruno's viewpoint to the Egyptian religion/science that once permeated the whole globe, and as he said, it was overwhelmed in darkness when the Christians destroyed it. In fact, that's what the Lament of Hermes talks about. Hermes in the Hermetica foresaw the time when Egypt would be overrun by barbarians, and they were the gods of Egypt. In other words, the principles of the science that they had discovered. The properties and energies of the energy of electromagnetism. You see, the Egyptians were scientists and they knew about the science of how things manifested, and since we have manifested in the flesh and have a apparent solid body, there must be spiritual causes for that event, for that entity. And you see, this is what the scientists discovered, that there was, and there was a way to return back to that source and stay there immortally, forever, being the true nature of humankind, you see. And the Egyptians knew this science. 3.3, it says there, the base